Amano Keita is an ordinary high school boy whose quiet life revolves entirely around video games, until a chance encounter pulls him into the center of unexpected relationships. Misunderstandings pile up as friendships, rivalries, and romantic tensions spiral wildly, all driven by his sincere but awkward love for gaming. What begins as a simple invitation to join a game club turns into a chaotic and hilarious story where every choice feels like a high-stakes game he never meant to play. The story began one day when Keita was buying several games at a game store. While he was focused on choosing which games to purchase, a beautiful girl named Karayan suddenly approached him and greeted him. Keita froze in place the moment he saw her. Since it was their first time talking, Karayan quickly introduced herself. Karayan was a student from Class 2A at Otobuki High School. Karayan was known as one of the most admired girls at her school. She was smart, attractive, and talented in sports, making someone like her extremely rare. Even though she was not a celebrity, students at Otobuki High School often regarded her as a fallen angel or the school's idol. In contrast, Keita's situation was completely different from hers. He was shocked that Karayan had spoken to him at the game store and quickly introduced himself as well. He was from Class 2F and attended the same high school as Karayan. Keita felt that he must have looked awkward and embarrassing, and he never expected Karayan to be so friendly toward him. When he became startled earlier, some of his items had fallen, and Karayan kindly helped him pick them up. Keita could not understand why something like this was happening to him. He grew extremely nervous when Karayan asked whether he really liked games. His nervousness overwhelmed him, causing him to answer without thinking clearly. Karayan picked up one of the games Keita had chosen earlier. The game was titled Golden Memories, an adventure simulation featuring a lighthearted fantasy setting. Keita explained that he enjoyed games in general. Even though he spoke nervously, Karayan did not mind at all. At that moment, Keita had no idea how to behave and felt as though he wanted to disappear on the spot. Keita explained that he liked games because they offered interesting content, and sometimes his curiosity led him to check the information on the back cover. Karayan understood and agreed that the back cover was indeed appealing. Hearing that, Keita became increasingly enthusiastic and started talking more passionately about games. After a while, Keita worried that his behavior might have made Karayan uncomfortable. Unexpectedly, Karayan laughed after seeing how excited he looked while talking about games. To her, Keita seemed genuine and ideal in his own way, which led her to ask him to join the game club. Meanwhile, Thasuku was spending time at a game center when Agori asked him for help. Agori wanted Thasuku to play a claw machine game to get a large cat plushie, and she pleaded earnestly. Thasuku asked her for money to play, but Agori reacted with playful frustration. Thasuku then tried the claw machine himself and carefully controlled the claw. At first, Agori thought he had missed the target, but it turned out that Thasuku was aiming for the hook attached to the plushie. Thanks to that strategy, Agori successfully got the plushie and was overjoyed. Agori admitted that Thasuku was truly skilled at playing games. Although Thasuku acted indifferent, he was secretly very pleased and felt proud of himself. Since Agori was his girlfriend, her cheerful and innocent personality made him feel grateful to be with her. That evening, Agori and Thasuku walked home together. Thasuku asked why Agori seemed so happy, and she explained that she was thrilled to have received the plushie from him and promised to take good care of it. Not long after, Thasuku noticed Keita standing alone near a park. He thought that someone like Keita would never be able to be with someone as charming as Agori and dismissed him as socially awkward. In reality, Keita was with Karayan at that time. Karayan told him that she was in the process of forming a game club, but had not yet recruited members. She commented on how polite Keita always sounded when speaking to her. Karayan explained that her friends and teachers always spoke politely to her, and even characters in games tended to do the same. She also shared that she had stayed up for 3 days trying to break a world record for fast completion in a game. Keita did not immediately believe her and assumed she must have been exaggerating or dreaming. It was only then that Keita realized Karayan genuinely loved games. She had never talked about this interest with her friends before. The real reason she enrolled at Otobuki High School was because she had heard rumors about a famous game club. Unfortunately, the club disbanded before they entered the school. Because of that, Karayan had been secretly working the previous year to revive it, and she was confident that she would succeed this year. Keita congratulated Karayan and asked what the game club was truly about. Karayan explained that the club was not just about playing games casually, but treating them seriously as an official club activity. That was why she was searching for true gamers, and that was how she found Keita. Karayan asked Keita to visit the game club next time. She then said goodbye, explaining that she needed to head home. Before leaving, Karayan suggested that they meet again after school the following day. While at home, Keita still could not stop thinking about the game club. He never expected something so big to happen in his life. and he even wondered if everything that had happened was nothing more than a dream. Not long after that, his phone received a notification. Keita immediately checked it, only to find that it was just a request for help in an online game. At the same time, a girl somewhere was playing a game while smiling softly. The next day after school hours ended, Keita remained sitting quietly at his desk. Once again, he received a help request notification from Mono. Suddenly, Karan appeared and startled him. Karan apologized for being late to meet him. Keita did not mind at all, since he was simply passing the time. Karan was surprised to learn that Keita also played browser-based games. Her position was very close to him, which made Keita nervous, especially because their classmates were watching them. Keita then suggested that they head to the game club room right away. Keita followed Karan shortly after, feeling a bit guilty toward Mono for declining her in-game help request. At that moment, Thesuke could not believe that Keita had become so close to Karan. Karan brought Keita to meet another member named Ichi. She introduced them to each other and casually mentioned that Ichi really loved playing puzzle games at the arcade. Ichi became embarrassed when Karan shared that detail. Keita was shocked to see how close Karan and Ichi were, since he had previously thought that he was someone special to Karan. Ichi admitted that he did not have many friends, which was why he truly wanted to be friends with Keita. Keita accepted Ichi's handshake warmly. Keita was also surprised that the school had officially approved the game club. Karan explained that their club activities were more structured and meaningful than people might expect. When they arrived at the game club room, Thesuke and Ichi were amazed by how many games were inside. Unexpectedly, there were already other students in the room. Karan referred to them as strict seniors and then introduced one of them, Gakudo. Keita and Ichi greeted him politely. There was also another senior named Nina, who stayed silent because she did not like being disturbed while playing games. Karan explained that Gakudo was known as a top-tier FPS player on a global level. Ichi looked unfamiliar with FPS games, so Keita asked whether it was his first time seeing one. Ichi admitted that he only really understood puzzle games. Keita explained that all the equipment in the club room had been purchased using prize money from game competitions. That was what Karan meant by their club activities being well-defined, since they earned recognition through gaming tournaments. Karan then invited Ichi and Keita to play together. Gakudo even suggested a friendly test of skill. They began playing an FPS game together, and Keita was surprised that they ended up playing several rounds. Even so, the highest score still belonged to Gakudo. Keita became exhausted after playing for more than 2 hours. Karan commented that at least Gakudo was holding back a little, because otherwise the new members might have felt overwhelmed. Keita acknowledged Gakudo's unmatched skill, especially considering how challenging the AI opponents were. Gakudo casually remarked that his opponents were still at a basic level. Gakudo was genuinely surprised that Ichi, who was playing an FPS game for the first time, performed so well. Despite being a beginner, Ichi managed to defeat Gakudo 3 times. Ichi explained that he was simply copying the movements he observed. Keita praised Ichi's ability and even suspected that Ichi had played FPS games before, but Ichi denied it, explaining that it truly was his first time and that he found it surprisingly fun. Karan also praised Ichi, and even Gakudo admitted that Ichi showed real potential. According to him, the ability to observe and learn techniques from other players was a fundamental skill for becoming good at FPS games. Meanwhile, Gakudo pointed out that Keita's habit of jumping around on top of vehicles made him an easy target, which affected the team's performance. Keita looked discouraged after hearing that. Karan felt awkward and explained that Gakudo tended to get overly intense when playing FPS games. She apologized on his behalf and suggested that everyone take a break. Karan, Ichi, and Keita rested for a while to recover their energy. Keita was amazed that Nina and Gakudo were still playing enthusiastically despite having played for so long. Karan explained that both Gakudo and Nina truly loved games, sometimes even prioritizing them over daily meals. She then asked Keita and Ichi if they had any special reasons for wanting to become gamers. Karan shared that Gakudo had been trained strictly by his father, who was a soldier, which explained his exceptional FPS skills. Meanwhile, Nina wanted to use her strength to help save a friend who had fallen into a dark place. Keita said that he simply liked games, nothing more than that. The atmosphere became a bit awkward, but Karan reassured him that his reason was perfectly valid. Karan then asked Ichi about his motivation. Ichi admitted that he did not have a specific reason. Keita initially felt relieved hearing that, but then Ichi revealed that he had lost all of his memories, which was why puzzle games were the only thing he excelled at. Keita was so shocked by the revelation that he accidentally spat out his drink. Karan asked whether Ichi and Keita already understood the Gamers Club in general. She explained that most of the seniors were basically game fanatics, so she asked Ichi and Keita not to take any harsh or careless remarks from the seniors too personally. Karayan also said that they did not need to be extremely skilled at games, because the true purpose of the Gamers Club was to help everyone grow into better gamers. That was why she wanted all of them to work hard together to reach that goal. Heichi felt genuinely entertained by the activities that day, and he became interested in joining the Gamers Club. Karayan then turned her attention to Keita and asked how he felt about it, wondering whether he was interested in joining as well. Keita hesitated and began thinking about whether he should sign up. At that moment, Yakuto and Nina approached him and showed their willingness to help him improve his gaming skills. For Keita, this was the first time he had made friends during his high school life. Even though the seniors were difficult to talk to at first, they were actually kind people, especially Karayan, whose warm smile left a strong impression on him. Keita felt that his school life was becoming ideal, surrounded by the games he loved. Unexpectedly, Keita ended up saying that he was not interested in registering for the Gamers Club after all, because there were no games in the club that he truly wanted to play. Everyone was shocked by his answer. The next day, Keita could not stop thinking about what had happened. He could not understand why he had rejected the invitation to join the Gamers Club, even though it had been something he once dreamed about. He felt foolish for turning it down. Not long after, his phone vibrated with another game notification from Mono. Just as Keita was about to start playing, Karayan suddenly appeared standing right in front of him with a gentle smile. Keita was startled by her unexpected presence. Karayan was surprised to see that Keita was still playing games on his phone. She expressed that she still wanted him to join the Gamers Club and strongly hoped he would reconsider. She even went as far as earnestly asking him again and admitting that she had personal feelings toward him. Keita was taken aback by this, especially since many of their classmates were watching. Karayan then reached out her hand toward him. Keita accepted the gesture, and as time continued to pass, the game invitation from Mono was about to expire. Fortunately, Keita managed to move his hand and accept Mono's game request in time. Keita felt relieved that he was still able to play the game invitation from Mono, but he soon realized that he had unintentionally ignored Karayan. Karayan looked extremely embarrassed, and Keita immediately apologized to her for his rude behavior. While continuing to play on his phone, Keita apologized again and explained that he could not join the Gamers Club. Karayan wondered if Keita was worried about not being skilled enough and assured him that Gakuto would be willing to teach him. However, that was not the issue. Keita admitted that he played games purely for enjoyment and not for competition. He apologized once more and explained that while the Gamers Club was truly amazing, he wanted to enjoy games in his own way. Karayan felt deeply saddened, as the situation felt like a personal rejection to her. Keita thanked her sincerely for inviting him the day before. Karayan found it strange that someone like Keita, whom she had just met, could make her cry simply because of his refusal. Keita encouraged her to keep supporting the Gamers Club. Overcome with emotion, Karayan began to cry and walked out of the classroom. Unfortunately, she slipped on a banana peel and fell, causing all the students to look at her, which made her feel even more embarrassed. Karayan quickly ran away from the scene. Keita wondered if he had made her upset. Not long after, Mono sent him a message to thank him. That day, Keita's classmates noticed Karayan crying after talking with him. They became curious about what kind of relationship conflict had happened between Keita and Karayan. Some of them had overheard a conversation about a gamer club that Karayan and Keita had been discussing earlier, which made them even more curious. They wanted to ask Keita about it, but Thasuku thought it would be pointless since someone like Keita did not seem easy to talk to. Thasuku himself started wondering what kind of person Keita really was. Mika felt that Keita came across as irritating, while Masaya believed that someone like Keita was not worth much appreciation, even though his attitude still felt annoying. Thasuku commented that Keita seemed to live without any clear direction. Their classmates briefly thought that Thasuku was getting emotionally worked up while talking about Keita. While the lesson was going on, Thasuku could not stop thinking about Keita. He occasionally glanced over, quietly observing him from his seat. During lunch break, Aguri approached Thasuku with a bright, cheerful expression. She sat very close to him, acting as if she was recharging her energy just by being near him. Mika asked whether Aguri really liked Thasuku that much. Aguri laughed and openly admitted it. She had brought a homemade lunch for him, shaped like an adorable kitten, although it had ended up looking rather messy. Aguri mentioned that Keita was becoming a hot topic in Class C because he had turned down Karayan. Thasuku was not particularly interested and felt that it was nothing unusual. He recalled the moment when Aguri confessed her feelings to him and how he had no reason to reject her. Aguri genuinely loved Thasuku, and she believed she would be happy as long as they stayed together. After school, Aguri and the others went to the game center. Thasuku chose to split up from them because the room felt too crowded. He decided to try a crane game instead. While operating the machine, he suddenly caught a glimpse of his reflection that reminded him of his past. The memory disrupted his focus and brought back thoughts of his gloomy middle school days when he had been isolated by his classmates. After a while, he managed to win a game cassette. Unexpectedly, Keita had been watching him the entire time. Feeling shy, Keita introduced himself. Tasuku admitted that he already knew Keita's name and asked what he was doing there. Keita, still embarrassed, asked whether Tasuku liked video games. Tasuku explained that he had picked the prize without really looking at it. The game he won was Paradigm of Pantasia, a very famous title that he had never tried before. Keita considered the game a masterpiece and strongly felt that Tasuku should play it. Keita became extremely enthusiastic while explaining the game in detail and highly recommended it. Tasuku responded that he did not need recommendations from Keita. Realizing he had gotten carried away, Keita apologized and then excused himself before heading upstairs. The upper floor of the game center was dedicated to video games. Tasuku grew curious about Keita's purpose for going there. Keita appeared to be avoiding the crowd. Tasuku guessed that Keita liked video games but did not enjoy noisy arcade machines. Just as Keita was about to leave, Tasuku stopped him and asked him to stay for a moment. Keita, clearly nervous, awkwardly clarified a misunderstanding about Tasuku's intentions. Tasuku simply wanted to invite Keita to play a game together. Keita had always wanted to try one of the video games there, but in the past, he had only watched the demo videos. Tasuku wondered just how insecure Keita really was. Even then, he still found it hard to believe that Keita had rejected Karain. Tasuku asked about Keita's relationship with Karain. Keita smiled, realizing that Tasuku had seen what happened that morning, and then explained the situation to him. Meanwhile, Aguri was spending time with her friends while waiting for Tasuku to come find her. Not long after, she noticed Karain standing near the crane game area. After hearing Keita's explanation about Karain and the Gamer Club, Tasuku admitted that this was the first time he had heard about such a club. He became curious about what made the games played in the Gamer Club different from the ones Keita usually played. Keita found it difficult to put that feeling into words. Tasuku sensed that Keita simply wanted a friend he could talk to about games, and Keita quietly acknowledged that this was true. Tasuku felt that Keita still seemed emotionally unsteady. Before long, Keita suggested that they start playing. Tasuku asked whether Keita wanted to watch the demo video first, but Keita preferred to jump right in. Tasuku confidently believed that he could impress Keita with his skills. They quickly chose their characters, and Keita picked the protagonist. Keita wondered whether Tasuku had ever played the game before. Tasuku admitted that he usually chose characters based purely on how cool they looked. Once the game started, Tasuku pointed out that Keita played much better than Aguri, since Aguri tended to press buttons at random. According to Tasuku, players like Keita were actually easier to predict. In the first round, Keita was defeated very easily by Tasuku. Keita felt impressed and acknowledged how skilled Tasuku was. Tasuku, however, thought that Keita's ability was still fairly low. They moved on to the next round, and Keita felt confident that he would be able to win this time. Tasuku found it strange that even though they were just playing a fighting game, Keita looked genuinely happy. Unfortunately, Keita lost again. Tasuku felt that Keita's skill level was unusually low, especially considering that even grade school kids these days tended to play better. After finishing the game, they walked out together. Keita felt genuinely happy that he had been able to play with Tasuku. Tasuku then asked what Keita wanted to play next, mentioning that it was not very fun if only one person kept winning. Keita became extremely excited and eagerly suggested playing more games. They ended up playing several different types of games, including shooting games, driving games, music games, and many others. After they were satisfied, they bought cold drinks from a vending machine. Keita was still full of excitement and asked what game they would play next. Tasuku wondered whether Keita was planning to try every game that could not be played alone. Keita felt embarrassed and avoided admitting it. Still full of energy, Keita rushed back toward the arcade machines. Tasuku smiled at Keita's behavior, feeling that it reminded him of his own past. While walking, Tasuku suddenly noticed Karain sneaking around nearby. He felt confused about what she was doing. As soon as Karain noticed him, she quickly ran away. Tasuku tried to call out to Keita, but at that moment the others arrived. Keita thanked Tasuku and hurried off. Aguri and the others approached Tasuku shortly afterward. Meanwhile, Keita ran off and Karain chased after him, still determined to invite Keita to join her gaming club.